Hello, fellow streakers. This is Jeff and Jamie, and we're with you again on another streaking podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Luke Zarato. I've got to tell you just quickly the story of how I met Luke. He posted a very brave post on LinkedIn, and we're going to talk to him about it today, about being 5 years, 60 months, or 1,825 days sober. And the conversation that I had with him, I just basically say that he is a super streaker. So we're excited to have him with us today. What do you say, Jamie? Let's get streaking.
Yes, let's do this. Luke, we're so excited to have you on. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and giving me a chance to share my story with your audience. Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, let's just get started with that. One of the things that you should know about our audience, Luke, is that they are into consecutive consistency. That's what streaking is all about. And when I saw your story on LinkedIn, I was immediately drawn to it and just reached out to you because I think you had a lot of bravery to post this, and we're going to get into some of that. But why don't you just give us a little bit of your story, your backstory, what led to the post that we got to, and wherever you want to go from there. And Jamie and I, we'll just have a conversation about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just touching on your point there about the post, right? So at that time, it was a few months ago, and it was 5 years, right? So I hit the 5-year mark, and I knew that was a pretty big deal, right? I was obviously super proud of myself, and I knew I wanted to share my story a little bit. Up until that point, other than family, close friends, nobody really knew, right? I wasn't vocal about it, and when that 5-year mark was approaching, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I think it's time to share my story a little bit. So, I'm a pretty private person as it is. So just even doing these kinds of things is a little crazy for me. I have, Instagram, Facebook, etc. But all my accounts were private. I had to, authorize or accept you as a friend to share. So I knew I wanted to share to my circle. But then I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to, share my story and the impact that it's had on my life, with the hope of touching others, I said, you're going to do this right. You're going to do this big. So I did it on LinkedIn. Not only did I do it on LinkedIn, but I made it public. So you didn't have to be a friend of mine to see the post. And especially in the corporate world where, I work in, corporate sales, it was a very, scary thing to do. Yeah. So I made the post, I went back and forth in my mind about posting it or not. So I made the post, and it was right near bedtime. It was around the time I went to bed. Literally woke up the next morning, and it was just like, I my jaw was to the floor, like so many messages, so many texts. It was just so overwhelming.
Absolutely. And in fact, it garnered more than 37,000 likes, and 2,071 comments. And I know I was at least one of those comments because I was congratulating you on what it was that you did.
And I don't know, Jeff, if we clarified what the 5 years was for. Yeah. So we talked about the post, but this is 5 years of sobriety. And that's Correct. When you 5 years, 60 months of nothing, no drinks. Yeah. That was amazing. Yeah. So that explains why that would be, why there's some trepidation there to share that, especially when you talk about sharing it on LinkedIn to the world,
Exactly. And, I'm actually like having gone through that and just like sharing and just being so, open about it. I mean, it's sort of, it's brought me to here today. It's made me feel in a weird way. It's not that we need, acceptance or validation from anyone, but it actually felt really good to know that what I was talking about, what I was sharing, was impactful to a lot of people that would not necessarily talk about that, right? It's a very private conversation for a lot of people. For me, 5 years, I never told anyone other than, the people closest to me. So it's about breaking the stigma. I mean, that's why I'm on this show today. That's why I made the post. And that's why it's almost given me this voice where I'm confident and I want to share, because I know just receiving the messages you mentioned, right? A lot of comments and stuff, the amount of people that have written me directly, and sharing, being so vulnerable and sharing their amazing stories. it just made me realize on how important of a topic this really is.
Yeah. So let's go back just a little bit, if you don't mind. What was it that prompted you to get on the sobriety wagon to say, you know what, this is enough? What's some of the backstory to this? And then we can get into more of what's happened since then as you've done that.
So, my story is, so I'm half Italian, half French Canadian, right? Two cultures that, enjoy being very, very social, eating good food, having company, all those wonderful things. So I grew up in a household where, being very social, it was normal, right? Alcohol, celebrating life, it was very normal. It was a very normal thing up for a young age. So I was exposed to it early.
Yeah.
And that was in a good sense, in the sense that, when I would be out at a party, let's say in my early teens, and there would be alcohol, it wasn't new to me. So, I didn't really struggle with alcohol, if I'm being honest, up until probably my early 30s. So it took a while, right?
Yeah.
And my story isn't something, I've been reading up on different stories or people sharing their stories. I mean, for me, I during my time drinking, right? I always had a job. I found a way to kind of block that, sort of things that you would expect from someone who's struggling with alcohol. Like from the outside, I'm sure a lot of my friends, people who've reached out to me, like, look, I had no idea that you struggled, because I kept it private, right? I had a job. I was, I'd find ways to work out. I usually had a girlfriend, which would fall apart as a result. And, from the outside, I looked like I had it together for the most part. But in the inside, mentally, my confidence, if I didn't have that alcohol in that social situation, I would just, I would not be what others expected me to be. So, I realized quickly, or I should say the opposite. It took me a while to realize, but when I did make that realization that things needed to change, I went, two steps in, I jumped right into it. I didn't, I did it on my own. And I knew that I needed to make change. It just wasn't sustainable, the life I was having.
Yeah. So as you looked at that then, did you have a question, Jamie? Did you have a thought?
No, I just thought it was interesting that you said that without the alcohol, you couldn't be what people expected you to be. So there was this outward pressure, whether that you felt that there was this expectation to act a certain way, and you didn't feel that you could be that way unless you had alcohol to help with that.
Right. Yeah. And again, for me, my story, I wasn't a daily drinker. I never drank on my own, frankly. But for me, I had a lot of, social anxiety. Mm-hmm. So I kind of created this, I have a lot of energy, and I always had a lot of energy. So when I would mix it with alcohol, I find I was kind of molding myself into this character that people sort of expected of me, this life of the party type person, quickly, halfway through the night would be standing on a table or on a chair, making an impromptu speech, usually pretty inappropriate, getting a lot of laughs. Right. Yep. People love being around me, right? They're like, look, you're so much fun. You have so much energy. You bring out the best, in people. And it's funny to hear those comments now. It's like, no, I didn't, because all these friends that love being around me, enjoy my company in these situations. They did not see that, that dark side that alcohol brought out in me, and the inconsistencies that alcohol brought out in me. Like even my closest friends, they didn't really see that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when I was like, okay, this can't sustain itself. Change needs to happen.
Yeah.
And the amount of courage it takes when you're looking at it thinking, okay, by changing this, I'm having to let go of all those things that other people think of me and expect of me, and just be true to who I want to be. not to who everybody thinks that I should be. In those social settings where you get all of that, the accolades and the praise for whatever, but then that all goes away and you're left with what's left over.
And that really was the hardest part for me. That really was the hardest part, right? So I knew that I knew it wasn't sustainable, right? Just the lows that I would have, anyone who drinks, they know the hangovers can be tough, but for me it was different. It was like I would, like, the day after I blacked out a lot. Like, I was the kind of drinker that would be in that sort of social situation and be that, fun guy, but then I wouldn't know how to stop. Right. Yeah. I would drink until either I passed out or I blacked out. And a lot of times I needed, friends to bring me home and take care of me, or otherwise I probably wouldn't have made it home. Right. So a lot of my mornings would be like waking up just like, what did I do? What did I say? And just full of embarrassment.
Right.
And I was just sick and tired of having that feeling. And I knew in my mind, in my early 30s, I knew in my mind that I wanted to be a father one day. I knew in my mind that I wanted to be in a strong, strong relationship, consistent relationship, and alcohol was not providing that for me. So that was my big why, right? And that's what drove me, and that's what really helped me in those kind of darker times, or the beginning, those social situations where I had to adapt, and I had to find myself again. I had to,
right.
Really, it sounds a bit cheesy to say, but love myself again. I needed to figure out who I really was, because it's so, when you're in these situations and you're drinking a lot and you're doing things that you wouldn't normally do, it's not a life that I wanted for myself. So I needed to change.
So you say that when you decided to make that change, you went in with both feet. You jumped into the pool with both feet. You decided, and from that moment, you said, no more.
Yeah.
What that particular moment when you decided that, I'm guessing that the 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after were pretty difficult, or were they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, when I say I wanted to jump in 2 feet, I mean, I didn't decide I wanted to be sober, and I was successfully, here I am today. There was a lot of ups and downs in the process. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning, like when I finally realized, okay, Luke, you're ready to make some changes here. You're going to seek help. You're going to do all those things, that you've been, that you need to do. But at first I was almost fooling myself in the sense that I would be able to drink, control my drinking, right? Monitor my drinking. I'm French and Italian. How am I going to be around my family?
Right.
My closest friends, like, they drink wine with every meal. Like, they're very social. How am I going to do that? So I was really fooling myself for a while where, I thought I could control my drinking. So I went to therapy, right? First thing I did is I said, okay, you're not going to do this on your own. So I went to therapy. And one of the therapists I was working with for a bit there, we were monitoring my drinking. We were finding a way to limit my drinking, right? She had me do things like, write down on a piece of paper before I would go to a social situation how I'm feeling, some of the potential triggers that I would have, basic things like drink water in between your drinks, make sure you have a full stomach, 3 should be kind of the max for the night, like all these things. And you know what, for some of the nights, I want to say almost for most of the nights, it worked out okay. Like it worked out fine. I was able to, I checked in with myself. I would, do all the things. And then I'd go back to the session and explain, oh, wow, this was me. But then there would just be that maybe, I don't know, 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 nights where it would not work that way. I would not control it. And and I found that I kept kind of slipping back into it. And it was just like, wow, like this isn't working. This is not working. And then I was just frustrated. I was frustrated. So I actually, after one bad night, I said, you know what, Luke, maybe you should see someone else. Like call another psychologist and therapist, and start fresh. So I said, you know what, maybe it's time to start fresh. So that's exactly what I did. It was right around the holidays. It was, whatever it was, a snowy morning. And I went on Google and I Googled, a therapist in Toronto where I live. And I found someone, he had good reviews. And I actually saw him within a couple hours from making that original reach. I was like, I need, so I went to see him. We chatted a couple sessions. And again, I was sort of under the same thought process. Hey, I can control this. I can do this. I have the will and I got the goal and I, want to be a dad and I want to be all these things. So I can control my drinking. And so he looked at me in a way that, he spoke to me so directly. And my other therapist never did that. And frankly, no one has ever really done that. They just it felt like they were talking through to my soul. Basically said, Luke, you cannot be drinking again. And just the way he said, how he said it. And I was just like, whoa. And I was like, no. And again, I was like, this is my culture. Like, we're used to these things. I went back in the car that day after the session and I just bawled my eyes out.
Wow.
I cried by myself in the car in the parking lot for a good while because I knew he was right. I knew that for me, and again, I'm not preaching sobriety on anybody, right? If you can handle your booze, I wish I could do that. All the power to you. Please continue to drink responsibly and have fun. But for me, right, I've gotten to know myself and just I kind of simplify it in my brain. I say alcohol does not mix with my blood. That's it. Yeah. It's almost like I say to myself, I have an allergy to alcohol. If you have an allergy to peanut butter, right? And you used to love peanut or whatever, your friends love peanut butter. Are you going to have peanut butter? No, it's not good for you, right? So for me, alcohol is just, I'm allergic to alcohol. Like once I could say that so simply like that, I'm actually getting the goosebumps a bit just talking about this because I actually haven't really shared, talked out loud all that much about this. Like this is, so it actually feels good to just kind of like really open up here. But so
we feel it too, by the way. I'm feeling so. This is such a powerful story. I think there's a couple of things that are really neat about what it is that you're sharing, Luke. And one of them is when you have someone that will look straight at you and be direct and say what you need to hear, that is a powerful moment in anyone's life. And in your life where the therapist just looked at you and said, I don't think you understand. You cannot drink again. That hit right to the truth of your soul that you said,
100%.
That's where I'm at.
And as you were, go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
I was going to say, as you were searching for that truth, I loved that you're like, I knew he was right. I knew that he was right.
Because, I'm thinking about, the other therapist and she was very qualified, a lot of great reviews and, everyone has their style. But for me, I needed that like really direct approach. And maybe for some it wouldn't work, but I think about a lot of my, my closest friends, right? They knew I was struggling. And these are things that I would talk about. Do you know how many times I would say, I wake up after a bender of a night or whatever, a tough night, and I'd say, you know what, I'm never drinking again. Mm-hmm. I'm never I don't know how many times I've said that. And a lot of my friends, they were trying to help me, but they didn't want to hurt maybe they didn't want to hurt my feelings by being so real and just so direct, because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
But having this person that I don't know at all, this therapist, just look at me in the eyes like that, and who deals with this on a regular basis. This is what he does. It just gave me that. It just gave me that feeling that, oh my God, you're allergic to alcohol. So let me move forward a little bit here. Yeah. So we had that great conversation, right? I really, innately looked in myself and I, knew I wanted to do the change, and I kind of had a bit more confidence in that. So he sent me to group therapy. He sent me to group therapy. And that going through group therapy, between the group therapy and because we continued our journey together, but the group therapy really put things in perspective for me. And by perspective, I mean, I don't know if he did it on purpose. I'm pretty sure he did. But he put me in a group that was like in a group that was very advanced in this struggle, right? With alcohol and drugs.
Wow.
So I was in a group. I don't know, there were 10 or 12 that were very advanced. Okay. So I looked, I was probably the only one that didn't have visibly, bags under their eyes or, scratches or scars or I really felt walking there. I'm like, whoa, like I did not.
Their struggle had affected their physical appearance so much. Okay.
Big time. And that's it was interesting, right? Like I looked like this, normal guy, but I was suffering as much as these people on the inside, mentally, and so it doesn't matter how you look, and that's the thing. It's like you can't judge someone by how they look or how they talk. It's like there's so much more there. So that I want to park that for a second, but so going in that room with these people and just hearing their stories. And it just made me realize, and I said to myself, I remember saying to myself, like, look, this is rock bottom. Like, these people in this room, and myself included, are I almost separated myself a bit in a way. I don't know, to make myself feel better. I almost separated, like they were rock bottom. I was not quite, right? But I was close. And I said to
just
myself,
above rock bottom?
I was just above rock bottom, right? But so that's the thing. It's like, I didn't need to get fired from my job. I didn't need to, have these traumatic experiences. I mean, some could argue my stories are traumatic, but we don't need to get into that right now. But I just going through that session, hearing those stories, and it just made me realize that, look, if you don't make change, this could very well be you. This is on the course that you're heading.
This is your trajectory.
It was scary. Yeah. Exactly. Wow. It was very, very scary.
So was it in that group therapy, or is that when the streak started as far as no more drinking? Was it at that point, or had it started before then or after then?
So it had started.
Okay.
I had started yeah. Because because it was right on Christmas. It was right just after Christmas that I saw this. Yeah, so I was sober. Yeah, I wasn't drinking at all. Yeah. So by that point, it had only been like, let's say, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was very early in my sobriety. And it was frankly perfect timing, right? Because the beginning, anyone I talk to who's reached out to me or and they're asking, questions and I love sharing. I feel like it maybe help a little bit or give some perspective. Is the beginning is the hardest part, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the first year is hard, and maybe some of your listeners are curious, right? I call sober curious. So, they've been talking about it, either with friends or by themselves. They've been sort of interested. They don't know, right? But it's that first like deciding is a huge moment.
Yeah.
It's such a pivotal moment, right? To have that strength to decide you need to change, then the strength to actually follow through with it and implement some changes, because it's changes are naturally going to come. You're probably going to have, I had to have friends that I really couldn't hang around with anymore that didn't necessarily bring out my best, so I had to kind of cut those ties. But kind of finding yourself in this journey is hard.
Luke, I struggle. I'm just so impressed with the courage that it's taken you to, and I don't know if you saw it that way, but from the outside looking in, I just see the courage to make those decisions, because friends are friends. They're people who you enjoy hanging out with, and when you make a change at the core that you did, that takes just a huge amount of courage.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought of it like courage. Like that sounds great. It's a great word, but for me, I didn't really look at courage. Like I didn't look at it as I'm being brave. No, it's I'm prior. Like, to simplify this whole thing right here, It's I'm prioritizing myself. I'm doing what's important to me, what I need to do for myself. And that translated to so many other things, right? Like, again, going back to my social anxiety, I was always concerned about how other people looked at me, or what I thought other people expected me to do, be that, outgoing, loud spoken person, that character that I was being, that got me in trouble. Like, it was all fun and game. It was all fun. It was all laughing for the first, half of the night. Then the second, you know what I'm saying? So I needed to just do what was right for me. And yeah.
So going back to the group, what was the biggest impact that the group had? What is it about being a part of that group that added strength to what you were doing?
Yeah, I think just hearing other people's stories was in a way kind of eye-opening and comforting at the same time.
Okay.
It made me feel, and it opened my eyes. Like, I'll give you another quick example here. We were kind of sharing around the room, best practice. If I remember correctly, I think the majority of the room, well, everyone was under kind of, therapy of some sort, group or part of this program. But I believe almost everyone was sober, I think, or
Okay.
They made it, actually, this is it. They made one of the mandates was you could not show to class or the session under the influence of anything.
Okay.
So we were kind of talking about how we're coping and adjusting and doing different things. And one of the things I mentioned was like, oh, I downloaded this app, this cool app, and it tracks your days, streaking, right? We're talking about today. It tracks your days for you. At the beginning, right? It's like, it's been whatever it is, 13 days, so many hours. So I had this app. I was like, hey, how cool is this app that it keeps track of my days? And I remember saying however many days I had, like, this is amazing. And everyone in the room looked at me and they were kind of like, they didn't really say much. And I quickly realized that nobody in the room had a cell phone. Oh, so I was wow. Holy smokes, like, yeah, that's pretty, in this day and age, it was pretty scary. So that was the one part. But then the other part is where I would hear their stories, and many I could relate to. Trust me, many I could relate to. And I was just like, I almost felt like just hearing that. I mean, it's not every day that you hear these other stories, right? Like, my friends, I'll share, and I was embarrassed to share. So a lot of it was in my head. So just to kind of hear out loud from other people, and then you in a weird way have this instant connection bond because you know what they're going through, been through. I think that it gave me that confidence, or that drive, that doing what I'm doing is necessary, and it's the right thing. And just to know that I'm not like, I think it's human nature. You don't want to be alone, feeling alone, right? Like you're the only one who's having these problems. This is a very common thing. And just to be in that room with people who have struggled, it made me feel, okay, sucks that you're here, but what are you going to do about it?
Right.
This, and what you're talking about is one of the things we talk about in the laws of streaking, creating a community. And sometimes that community is a very small one with a very small, intimate group of friends. And then you move to a very large community, which is a jump that you took that we're going to talk about in just a second. But I look at your path and your journey as this broadening community of people who you could relate with and also hear their experiences and share your experiences. And that in and of itself, and I'd love to do a study as to why that gives each one of us strength, but for whatever reason, it's real, and it gives you that strength. Would you say that, Luke?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The community, 100%. I mean, a big thing for me now is, okay, I don't want to jump too much here, but for me, it's like, what have I been doing now that I've kind of, changed a lot of my life, and I've had all this, call it free time, right? Weekends, mornings, I'm not hungover, I'm not going out late, all these things. So, I had to pick up another passion. So talking about community, right? This running has become out of nowhere a new passion for mine. So this community of runners, I don't run with a lot of people, so it's not like it's just all these people I run with, but it's these strangers that I'm meeting that are running, and I just feel that as a runner, you're all equally a little crazy, but you have that
yes.
connection with each other, right? You're pushing forward, and there's just the struggles of the run. It's like you're feeling good, then you're feeling bad, and you continue pushing, and then you finish, and you feel amazing, and I can't wait to do it again. But in the moment, you're like, I want to stop. I'm over it. I'm done. So just that community, this call it this new phase of my life with the running, has just given me so much fuel, and it's just helped me so much.
I've often felt like running is a metaphor for life. Like you can go through an entire lifetime in a run from just that beginning part where you're like, this is going to be awesome. I'm amazing. Let's get going. And then sometimes I have runs where I'm like, I'm not even 2 miles into this and I'm dying. And just the things that you have to overcome, both physically and mentally and emotionally, on any given run, on any given day, is a lot, I feel like. And sometimes, and I think it's interesting too, because there's been times that I look at it and I'm like, I've been running for a while. Why is some of this still hard? But that is life, just these unexpected things sometimes, or for no reason sometimes that you can even identify. You're like, today's just a hard day. But then other days, and I remember what really got me going running was when I had just started. I was just pushing and it just logging, just trying to get through it. And I had gone to bed and I had a dream. And in this dream, I was able to just run and run and run. And it was so amazing. And that is the dream that propelled me. Is I'm like, I want to feel that way sometime, that I can. And every now and then you get those runs where you just look at it, you're like, wow, that was effortless. I was just able to do it. And so I feel like that's life. And then for me, I love what you said about this community of runners, because that is truly what even got me to contemplate the idea of even taking a run, was watching other people and seeing what they were able to do, and the way, and just this victory, this accomplishment. And I can't ever see somebody run and not be proud of them, no matter what physical state, condition, or anything that they're in. You just look at them and you're like, I'm just so proud that you're out here. And I feel the same way that I would think that would be with a sobriety community, is that it doesn't matter where you are in your process. Look at other people and you're just like, I'm so proud that you're here, because I know how hard it is, the process that you're going through, and you're taking the steps, and I'm proud of you, no matter where you are.
So well said, Jamie. So well said. And it's that where you're proud of that person, like, and you don't know them, and that community that provides, like in the running, jumping to running real quickly. Like a lot of my friends tease me a bit. They're like, Luke, you're always waving to people. I will not pass a runner, impossible, unless I'm totally distracted, without waving. I wave to every single runner I pass, and I love it. Right? I'm just like, I see you. You're doing your thing. I don't know anything about you, but rock on.
You go. Exactly.
You go. High five or wave. Everyone. And I feel that it picks me up. I love it. So that's the rant. I can go on about that for a long time. But the sobriety thing, I've had these people write me, right? And I don't want, I'm sort of downplaying how, like, there's been a lot. I've been like LinkedIn posts and friends of friends. I created this Instagram account, and I've had so many people reach out to me, and a lot of them are saying that, one, I've been thinking about it. How did more curious? That sober curious I mentioned, but the other is either they're on their journey, they're beginning, and I like you said, being proud. I'm like, I want to help them. I feel proud. But then I find that the biggest common thing I see people are starting, they use the word only, right? They use the word only, which limits them so much. I'm like, I've only been sober for 30 days, 5 days, whatever it is. Like, when you're saying those words, you're holding yourself back. And that's the first thing I'll say when someone says I'm sober for only, because I find like everyone who's written me that's starting their journey uses the word only. Like, when you say only, it's like you shouldn't be like proud. You should be almost like, it's just the beginning. And I can totally relate because I felt the exact same way when I was starting. My first 30 days, I was like, oh my God, I'm just so new at this. People aren't going to take me seriously. Right? They're not going to offer that support because they think, oh, Luke, shut up. Like you've been, you said to me so many times you're going to stop drinking, and I may have gone a couple weeks or a month before, so this is another one of those. So I totally relate to
so
to try,
powerful.
Exactly, to try to help and the community and just lifting each other up in this big time.
One of the things, Luke, that you just said, I think is so powerful for streaking across the board, whether it be with sobriety or anything that you want to do in your life. For example, I know that there are many people who I've talked to or reached out to that have said, well, I'm only at this portion. And really they should, and this is what I love about the community as well, is we're celebrating anything. If it's 2 days, if it's 7 days, if it's 12 days, 15 days, we don't care. We're celebrating that you've decided to get on the path and to start going in this direction. And I think that that's one of the areas where we look at streaking overall, be it in any area of life. It's the idea of I've started and I have this many days of the streak that's alive. And it really doesn't matter how many it is, from 3 all the way up to 3,000. It really doesn't matter. That's the other thing with the community that I hear from you, Luke, is we all celebrate together. And that's what we found overall, especially for this. At first we used to think that the community was for accountability. And there may be some of that, but honestly, 99% of it is the celebratory part of that community where I'm celebrating with you. Because that's when I read your post, and by the way, just on this post, you have a beautiful picture of yourself, and I'm thinking it's your daughter that's on this post. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, it's my daughter.
Cute.
Yeah.
And she's so, I mean, you two are just so beautiful together. And when I saw that, I was celebrating with you. I didn't think about what you did in your dark days as far as when you were drinking or any of those things. I just thought about how beautiful it is for you to be there with your daughter and taking this picture. That's why I felt compelled to reach out. I just wanted to celebrate with you.
Yeah.
And I thought there was so much. I love what you said about the only, because nobody gets to 10 days or 60 days or a year without going through day 2 or day 3. And honestly, let's be honest, how many times sometimes I'm like, I went through day 2 or day 5 like 15 times because I had to start over, which is also, I think, part of the process until you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And some things pick up faster, but I do think there's a lot of things that when we're trying to make a change in life, and I think it's any change, big changes, small changes, it takes a little bit of time to get that going and get it going and to stick with it. So I love the idea. Let's take out the only. And then the second thing, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. Go ahead with your second thing.
The second thing, in talking about the community, I think that the celebratory is more powerful than the accountability. I think there is, like you said, there's some level of accountability there, but often when we really stick to something is when we learn to be accountable to ourselves. Yeah. And often there's a mentor involved, but a mentor can't make you be accountable until you've decided to be accountable to yourself.
Yeah, you've taken that first step, right?
Yep. And once that happens, then that mentor and that community are there, but really they're celebrating with you, and there's power in that celebration. That's
the bright side of all this social media life that we're in, and that's that we know what's the dark side, right, of that is you can find yourself comparing to others.
Right.
Someone's bought a new house and they're posting the house, and you're trying to get a house that's you're happy for them, but just small examples like that where you're comparing. But the bright side of the kind of social media and on all this being able to connect is that community that it can shape in celebrating wins or whatever is impactful to you, right? So that's definitely the bright side. And so one of the other things too is, we're talking, right? I've been sober 5 years, right, which is a very long time, and it's and I've, I'm sort of maybe oversimplifying my story a bit, but I'm we only have an hour or whatever we have, but
right.
I want to be clear that, and this is this is the reason why, I wanted to join your show today. Is I know that, just because you're X amount of days in, or however many days, right? I still need to make that conscious decision every single day. Every single day I need to make that conscious decision that I'm not going to drink. Yeah. And the pressures that are out there through society, marketing, friends, they don't even know it. There's an enormous amount of pressure. So I need to choose every single day. And do you know how many times in my mind, I'll be at a restaurant with friends, I'll be watching TV, the game's on. I'll say to myself, Luke, you can have a beer. You've been sober for 5 years. You've proven to yourself that you got this. Do you know how many times I have that little voice inside of my head that says, Luke, you can have a drink today? And to be honest with you, sometimes I'm just like, yes. But I have to stop right there. And sometimes that stopping is not as easy as just shutting it off. I may have to leave where I am, right? I want to send that message. I want to say that out loud, because that's the thing that's really gonna keep me good mentally, is by sharing. Not only am I helping others, I hope, and I'm seeing the messages, I am helping others, but at the same time, by being vulnerable and open and talking about all these things, is I'm helping myself, as I know that I'm helping myself. I'm making myself feel good, and it's reminding me, hey, Luke, like what you're doing is a pretty big deal, and you should be proud of yourself. And it's giving me like that confidence. Now, in those social situations, right, I have a gathering on the weekend, I still have a part of my brain that's like, oh man, social situation. This is how am I going to avoid this? What's an excuse I could say? But the other part of me is like, you know what, Luke, you got this. Just be yourself. I don't need to stand on a table and make a speech. I don't need to be the funny, cool guy or whatever I thought I had to be. I have a beautiful daughter. I have a beautiful wife. I have everything that I could ever possibly want. Just be yourself. So I'm visualizing myself in this environment, kind of talking to a few people or whatever, leaving early, no big deal. Like I'm not here. I'm not trying to be friends with everyone and be that fun person. But anyways, I just want to share that with you.
Just a few thoughts as I'm thinking about what you're saying is what you're talking to yourself about when you're talking about going through each day and deciding that not drinking is an intentional decision that you make every day, and the different situations that you encounter. I'm visualizing that the difference between the way that you're handling that and the thoughts that you had about yourself after you had been drinking, and how being intentional allows you to go through this whole process. You think through it and you're like, oh yeah, I could. But you're being intentional and saying, no, I can't. And then you're thinking, look at what I've got. Look at the life I've created. I've got a family. I've got a beautiful wife. And so intentional in thinking about all of the things and the decisions that you're going to make, compared to when you were drinking, that all the thought came afterwards. All the thought came after you had, and just that difference of being able to make that shift and recognizing the power that comes with being intentional, and also recognizing that it's work, that it's still, but I love that it changed, your whole focus shifted from all of that thought happening before and as being part of the intentional, rather than the retroactive after you've done things that you wish you hadn't, and thinking, I found that fascinating, that being intentional, that's kind of how you did that, was shifting all of that and thinking through things much more on the front end.
The intentionality of the frontal lobe, so thinking of the brain, I think of it also as that intentionality is always there, and it's always work, and it's what I want. I want to do that work in order to be who I ultimately want to be, a loving father, a loving husband, a loyal father and husband, where I'm looking at, for you, Luke, looking at your child and saying, you know what, I love my daughter, I love my wife, and I'm going to be intentional about what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah. The biggest thing, for me and maybe some of your viewers that are, obviously if they've been listening for the last, 30, 45 minutes, clearly this is a topic that's, important to them. One of the biggest things is, without a doubt, you need to do this for yourself, or if you're listening for a family member that you're trying to help, right? That's struggling, and you want to offer help, and that's maybe why you're listening, or for yourself. You need to really want to do it. They need, or you need, whoever's struggling on their own. Mm-hmm. Like if you're kind of coaching someone, you're pushing someone, okay, let's do therapy, it's going to help. Maybe it can, but most likely it's not. And in order to help, or for me, again, going back to what worked for me, is I needed to stay close to my why. Like, why am I implement? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the reason? And like, the closer you are to your why, and if it's a big enough of a why for you, it's going to help a ton. So having that why, which was for me, the family that I wanted, the daughter that I wanted, the wife, the strong, wife, and the consistent relationship that I wanted. That was my why. And that helped me a lot in even now in my moments that aren't the greatest, right? It's, you're not I'm never out of the woods, unfortunately. It's saying I look at it like a disease almost, or an allergy, right? You're going to live with that allergy or that disease, unfortunately, for forever. So, but there's a lot of, tougher days that are going to come. Right. But staying close to your why and clearly, visualizing it, that's going to help a ton. And for me, it has too. And the other thing too is don't try to be a hero. Don't feel like you need to do this on your own. Right? Like, sobriety is such a taboo thing. Being sober is such a taboo thing, and it's tough. And, maybe you can do it on your own, but just today's world, it's so much more, as much as there's peer pressure and all these things, constantly there's more of an acceptance tone, I find, in our society than there would have been, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So leverage those resources that are out there. There's a ton available out there. A lot of things that you don't necessarily need to pay and go and see a psychologist, but there's a lot of things that are out there that can help you. And I think that's that's important to know, is that you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it on your own.
You don't need to do it alone.
Just as we come to the close of our podcast here, we've really enjoyed this conversation. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, so the 5 years come and you're deciding whether or not to make this post. That had to be a moment where I'm just curious as to your thought. You probably had to be like, should I push the button? Should I not push the button? Should I push the button? Should I not push the button? What led to the decision? To walk us through a little bit about when you finally decided to push the button.
Yeah. So I had, we were talking about running a little bit, right? So, I picked up running, and you're running, you're by yourself, and you think a lot. And it was even a few months before the 5 year that I was like, holy crap, your 5 years coming up. That's a big deal. Like, just the number, something with the number 5, like the 5 year anniversary, like it's 5.
Is one of my favorite numbers. Yeah.
A beautiful number, right? So I remember thinking to myself, and I'd be running, and I don't know, maybe I would listen to a certain song during this moment, and I would get emotional. I would run by myself, and I would get emotional, and how proud, I lost my father in 2016. He had prostate cancer, and I didn't really talk about him too much, but he amazing man, amazing father, but he struggled a little bit with alcohol too. So I know that, in my run and in the, thinking about this, I was like, I knew my dad would be so proud of me. And it's something that I just like, I get butterflies right now when I say that. And, just knowing that he'd be proud. So that like, gave me a lot of excitement. And then to make the post, I mean, like, because it's such a open, like I'm completely vulnerable, especially with the core. Like I find like sharing with friends, it's like they all know you some way and it's like whatever, cool. But like corporate world, right? Corporate sales, I work for a global IT company, hundreds, over 140,000 employees. So now all of a sudden I'm coming up, on these posts with these, VPs, executives who don't even know me, and now they just see me as this, the sober guy, and so it's I know that not everybody is cheering. Most people are cheering me on, but I'm sure there are some, especially in the corporate world, that look at it like, why would you do that? That's not professional. I probably wouldn't hire you because how do I know you're not going to relapse? How do I know you're not going to go back to your old? I don't know, just all these things, right?
Right.
But so that was kind of going on my mind, post or not post, right? Especially that LinkedIn thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? If there's a hiring leader out there that would not look at this positively and would find the negative out of it, I wouldn't want to work for you anyways. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be a part of your whatever you're doing. So
that's so healthy to see and to look at. I mean, that is just the healthy way to look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I made the post, and then and was really cool too, which was because it was right around the time that I was waiting to hear back from Boston Marathon. So I just had run a marathon, and I was trying to qualify for Boston, and I had a time that qualified me, but I wasn't sure about the cutoff and all these things. And when I got the announcement or the confirmation that I was accepted to Boston, I'm running in April in a couple months.
Congratulations! That is awesome.
I cannot believe that. But when I got the announcement that I was going to make it, I was obviously extremely emotional, and it just happened to be right at that magical 5-year sobriety. So I was like, holy crap! I wanted to share the news with Boston, and the sobriety was like a perfect time. It was like it's like my worlds were coming together. It's like I would not have qualified for Boston if I was drinking. Let's be honest. There's no way. And heck, I was always a pretty athletic guy. I played a lot of sports, even as a drinker. But there's no way I would have been able to have done that. So having the two come together, thinking about how just like proud I was of myself, thinking about my dad, and I was like, you know what, it's time for you to just push this message out and share my story, and just in hopes of helping others along the way. And I know that it would give me kind of that feeling too, that would help keep me strong and keep me clean.
Absolutely. Wow. What a motivational, fantastic, wonderful experience and story. And it continues today. And Luke, Jamie and I have certainly enjoyed, it's been a privilege for us really to be able to talk to you, and that you would take the time and be vulnerable and to come on. I just wanted to share with all of our listeners a couple of things that really stood out to me. One, when you have someone that will speak the truth to you, cherish that. Really take it in and say, you know what? I sometimes need the hard truth. The second thing that I heard is this fantastic celebratory community that you get together. There's one other principle that was discussed here, which is the law or the principle of displacement. And what I look at is you had this alcohol that was taking a place in your life, and you thought, you know what, I need to get rid of it. Well, that left an open spot, and you displaced any negative stuff that could have put in there with something that was positive, which happened to be running at the time, and I'm sure other things as well. The law of displacement is real. We don't necessarily are able to remove things from our life without it being taken by something else. And so it's important to be conscious. And that's the third point that I wanted to bring out, is the actual consciousness. These things of who I want to be will never become automatic. They are something that I have to be conscious about every single day. Jamie, any takeaways from you?
Yeah, for me, it was removing the word only, and recognizing that all of us, anytime we're doing something, are going to start with those small days. And so, and then I just want to just bring out real quick, Luke, I appreciate, we only know you because you posted on LinkedIn, and then you've gone on to do some other things. You had mentioned you have an Instagram account and different things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a very private person. So to be talking to you today, I'm definitely pushing myself. And after making that LinkedIn post, I knew that there was more that I wanted to share just based on the feedback I was getting. So I've been pushing myself. So right after first week of January, I created an Instagram account where I'm posting on the regular, kind of sharing my story, a little bit in more detail, different aspects, some tricks that I have, and I've kind of put it together with some of my running. Okay. So if there's any listeners that want to hear more about my story, or questions, or they want to get in touch, you can. See my Instagram account, Marathon 2 Sobriety. So Marathon 2 Sobriety. And I'm the whole purpose of that account is I know that by me sharing and helping others, it has already helped me. And as we spoke about, right, this is a journey. I'm not out of the woods. So something that I'm can continue choosing, every single day. So I very much appreciate, Jeff and Jamie, speaking with you, and your support. I really do feel that you're not just asking me questions, to create a show. I really do feel that, you're cheering me on. I feel that from the both of you, and I really do appreciate that. And it feels really good. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, for all our listeners out there, this has been Luke Zerato, and he is absolutely phenomenal. Do follow him on his Instagram account, Marathon 2 Sobriety. We'll put that link in the notes below. We just want to say to everyone out there, as you start your streaks, whatever it may be, from something as significant and as life-changing as sobriety to other things that are life-changing, remember that you can do it, and the consecutive consistency is the key to continue to move forward to who you want to be. Well, as always, if you want to ask questions of Jamie or I, please do so. Reach out to me at Jeffrey, Jeffery, at streakingmastery.com, or
Jamie at JAMI at streakingmastery.com.
You also can download the app, the Streaking app, STREAKING app, and follow either one of us and our streaks. You can see their progress, and we would love to add you to our community. So please download the app and follow us today. Well, until we talk again, everyone, we certainly have enjoyed having you here, Luke. And Jamie, as always, I love chatting with you. Until we talk again.